Up next is The Power of the Pause, presented by Samyuktha, Paidipati.
Think about the feeling you get when you're standing in front of the microwave, watching the numbers count down. You're leaning across the counter, staring at the little black dots on the microwave door. Inside, your pizza spins like a tired carousel. You check the timer, 45 seconds. You sigh. You shift your weight. You glance at your phone, but nothing has changed since the last time you checked it, 3 seconds ago. You check again, 42 seconds. Are you kidding? The clock is moving through literal glue. 1 second. Beep, beep, beep. Finally, in those moments, we feel like we are losing time. But what if we looked at that time differently? What if those minutes aren't a waste of time, but a chance to make our brains stronger? When we have to wait for something, we aren't just sitting there doing nothing. We are actually doing something difficult by resisting the urge to be frustrated. Think of it like this. Your brain has an instant mode that wants everything right now. So when things start to get slow, that mode starts to get restless. So how do we overcome this? Well, we treat patience like a muscle that needs resistance in order to grow. It's when you consciously choose to control yourself instead of letting that restlessness take over. It's about being the one in control of your mood, rather than letting the clock decide how you feel. It's called delayed gratification. When we practice staying neutral during small delays, we can change how we handle stress in bigger situations. For example, when you get frustrated by a slow microwave, your body reacts like there's a problem it needs to fix. But by choosing to stay calm, you're teaching yourself that a delay isn't an emergency. Just like you practice your scales in music or your shots in basketball to get better, you can train your brain to handle waiting without losing your cool. Most of us think our reactions are automatic. Something happens and we just get annoyed. But there's a physical gap between an action and your reaction. That gap is managed by your prefrontal cortex, or the boss part of your brain. This part of the brain sits right behind your forehead and acts as your internal filter. While the more simple parts of your brain are screaming for quick results, the boss part of the brain is the only part that is capable of saying no to that impulse. Think of it as a constant tug-of-war. On one side, you have a part which is wired for survival and speed. It's an annoying little problem that needs a quick solution. Yet, the boss part of your brain knows that a 30-second wait isn't a life-threatening emergency. It takes the time to evaluate the choices and make the best one. This part of the brain isn't on or off. It develops through resistance. And most people's boss part of the brain is asleep because they spent their life giving to every single little thing. But every time you put yourself out there and choose patience to stay, you're training that part of your brain to be stronger. You aren't just waiting. You're conducting a workout for your brain. You're moving from a version of yourself that was annoyed by every little thing to a version that actually decides how to handle the world. There's a famous study called the marshmallow test. This was conducted by Walter Mischel, a psychologist at Stanford University, along with his colleagues. The researchers gave kids one treat and said if they could wait, they'd end up getting two. Now, this experiment in delayed gratification has been done over and over again, and if you've seen the videos of this, it's agonizing. You see 4-year-olds sniffing the marshmallow, kicking their legs, covering their eyes so they don't have to look at it. Some of them try to talk to themselves to stay distracted, or they even lick the table around the marshmallow just to get a tiny taste without actually eating it. Besides this study being a bit of a cruel and unusual punishment for the kids, and providing laughs for the internet, there's actually merit to the original study. The kids who were able to wait actually did better in school and had more friends later on. They had higher SAT scores and were better handling stress as adults. It's because they learned how to handle now versus later. Instead of picking the fun thing right this second, they could focus on a goal further away. It's like choosing to finish your homework before watching TV. It's tough at the moment, but it makes the rest of your night much better. Sometimes it's hard not to give in to the marshmallow, like when my parents tell me not to eat the Halloween candy that they kept aside for the trick-or-treaters. The bright red wrapper draws me in, but I know I have to resist. Each piece looks tempting, but I know that I can't give in to the marshmallow. I stay strong, resist the urge, and the tempting feeling is usually gone within the next 5 minutes. The most important thing here is that the kids who could wait were able to control their impulses. It showed that patience is a foundation for everything else, from finishing your essay to keeping your cool in a stupid argument. And most of us look at these kids and laugh, but we're doing the same thing every time we check our phone in the middle of a conversation or zone out in class. We're basically just grown-up versions of those kids who couldn't keep their hands off the marshmallow. So the next time you're tempted with impatience, try taking 3 deep breaths first. Recently, I learned how to crochet. If you've never tried it before, it's basically just using a hook to loop yarn over and over for hours. At first, I was so frustrated. I wanted to finish hat right now. Instead, I just had a messy, knotted piece of string. My impulse center was telling me to just throw it away and go to sleep, that it was a waste of time. But I stuck with it. Every time I dropped a stitch and had to restart, I wasn't just fixing my hat, I was doing a rep for my prefrontal cortex. I was forcing the boss part of my brain to override the urge to throw the yarn across the room. I'm not saying I was the master of patience, but honestly, having to pull out 10 rows of yarn because I messed up one tiny stitch was the ultimate test of not losing my mind. I had to learn how to be okay with being slow and realizing that the finished product wasn't the point, but the actual work of not quitting was what was changing me. And it made me realize that I could apply that to other areas of my life, like when I'm stuck in a boring class or waiting in a long line. Some steps that you can follow to show patience are to first recognize that the situation is hard. If you can't do that, then it's hard to follow through with the rest of my advice. Then, take 3 deep breaths, like I said before. It'll calm you down. Then, wait. Just wait. If you actually accept this idea, you won't huff and puff and the struggle sound like the world is ending. You become the person who starts to realize that every annoying delay in your life is just another chance to get a rep in for your brain. If you can master the small stuff like the microwave, traffic, or the slow Wi-Fi, you're setting yourself up to be the person who's actually in control. You'll find that you'll have a lot more energy because you're not wasting it over being angry over the things you can't change. And that makes you more focused on the things you can change. You become the person that can stay focused when everyone else is distracted. And you'll realize that the best things in life usually happen in the time you spend waiting for them. So the next time you're staring at the microwave, remember that you're not losing time. You're actually building a version of yourself that can handle anything. Let the numbers count down. Thank you.